This lecture contains 7 modules. It starts with introduction, followed by paleomagnetism, then fields of paleomagnetism. Fourth module is the principles of remnant magnetization. Fifth is paleomagnetic procedure. Sixth module is importance of paleomagnetic studies, and the last module is conclusions. Human awareness on the fact that the earth acts as great magnet may have been reached during the 11th century AD, when mariners' compasses using lodestone were put into use by Arabs and Persians. Lodestone is a naturally magnetic variety of the iron mineral magnetite. The composition of this magnetite is Fe3O4, that is oxide of iron. It was discovered that a piece of lodestone could be floated upon a piece of wood or a cork to serve as a magnetic compass. Similarly, an iron needle could be magnetized by contact with lodestone and floated on water. The lodestone possessed the property of attracting iron was known to the Greeks as early as the 7th century BC. For this fact, it is stated in writing of Thales 640 to 546 BC. The first really scientific analysis of the earth's magnetism is contained in a treatise entitled De Magnete, published in 1600 by Sir William Gilbert, physician to Queen Elizabeth. In trying to explain why the north-seeking end of a compass needle, if free to rotate on a vertical axis, points downward into the earth's surface in the northern hemisphere, but outward in the southern hemisphere. Gilbert carried out some of the first truly scientific experiments ever recorded. He made a sphere of lodestone and observed the orientation of a magnetized needle when held at various points with respect to the sphere. He was thus able to construct the lines of magnetic force. Gilbert found that the magnetized needle assumed an orientation with respect to the lodestone sphere much like that which the compass needle assumes on the globe, from which he concluded that the earth acts as a great magnet. The earth's magnetism is called geomagnetism in its simplest aspect. The earth's magnetic field resembles that of a bar magnet located at the earth's center. The axis of the imaginary bar magnet coincides roughly with the earth's geographic axis. At the points where the projected line of the magnetic axis or geomagnetic axis emerges from the earth's surface or the magnetic poles. Note that the earth's magnetic axis forms an angle of about 20 degrees with respect to the geographic axis. As a result, the magnetic poles do not coincide with the geographic poles. Figure shows the lines of force of the earth's magnetic field in relation to the earth's core. The force lines pass through a common point close to the earth's center. The magnetic axis is oriented vertically in this diagram. There exists a magnetic equator at right angles to the geomagnetic axis and encircling the earth's surface approximately in the region of the geographic equator. Visualized in 3 dimensions, the lines of force of the earth's magnetic field form a succession of Dauphinat-like rings suggested in figure. The small arrows show the attitude that would be assumed by a small compass needle, free to orient itself parallel with the force lines close to the earth's surface. The vertical angle between the lines of force and the horizontal plane is called the magnetic inclination. Inclination is nearly 0 over the region of the geomagnetic equator, but nearly 90 degrees over the area of the geomagnetic poles. Inclination is measured by means of a dip needle. a magnetized needle mounted on a horizontal axis. Force lines extend far out into space surrounding the Earth. This entire field of magnetic effect is the magnetosphere. Earth magnetism is explained by the dynamo theory. This theory postulates that the liquid ion of the core is in slow rotary motion with respect to the solid mantle that surrounds it. It can be shown that such motion will cause the core to act as a great dynamo, generating electrical currents. These currents at the same time set up a magnetic field as shown in the figure. A single symmetrical current system can thus explain the magnetic field as essentially resembling a simple bar magnet. One of the most remarkable scientific discoveries of recent decades has been that the Earth's magnetic field has undergone repeated changes in polarity. In other words, the magnetic North Pole and South Pole have switched places, but with the axis unchanged in position. The phenomenon is called magnetic polarity reversal. Reversal occurs by weakening or decay of the geomagnetic field of force, while the polarity and direction of the force lines remain the same. After the strength of the magnetic field has fallen to 0, it begins to build back to normal, but with the polarity in the opposite direction, that is reversed polarity. The time intervals between polarity reversals seem to be irregular in length. The sequence does not follow a cyclic or rhythmic pattern. Basaltic lavas contain, in addition to the abundant silicate minerals, minor amounts of oxides of iron and titanium. These oxides typically occur as magnetite, that is Fe3O4, intergrown in a solid solution with titanium oxide, that is FeTiO4 or FeTiO3. Magnetite and other iron minerals susceptible to becoming magnetized are called magnetic minerals. At the high temperature of a magma, the magnetic minerals have no natural magnetism. As cooling sets in, however, each crystallized magnetic mineral passes a critical temperature known as the Curie point, below which the mineral becomes magnetized. The Curie point is reached between 600 degrees centigrade and 400 degrees centigrade because the magma crystallizes within the influence of the Earth's magnetic field. The magnetism of the mineral particles assumes a direction parallel with the lines of force of the Earth's field. With further cooling, this thermal remnant magnetism becomes permanently locked within the solidified rock and thereafter serves as an enduring record of the Earth's magnetic field at the time the magma cooled. The permanent magnetism that is acquired at various points in geologic time is called paleomagnetism. In the study of igneous rock magnetism, the sample of rock is removed from the surrounding bedrock. Orientation of the specimen core is carefully documented in terms of geographic north and horizontality. The specimen is then placed in a magnetometer, a sensitive instrument that measures the direction and intensity of permanent magnetism within the rock. Measurement is also made of the inclination of the magnetic axis of the specimen. After a number of samples have been obtained from a single lava flow, the magnetic readings are compared for consistency and averaged. The direction and inclination of the paleomagnetism can be compared with present conditions and with the magnetic field at other locations and at different times in the geologic past. Two other forms of paleomagnetism are useful in working out past geologic events. One is a permanent magnetism acquired by a hydrogenic mineral as it grows by a chemical precipitation. Hematite, an oxide of iron, the composition of which is Fe2O3, is one such mineral that acquires a permanent magnetism as it forms from weathering processes involving the oxidation of magnetite. More important, however, is detrital remnant magnetism, which is found in detrital sediments laid down in the quiet water of lakes or the oceans. The particles of magnetic minerals previously magnetized come to rest in a position of orientation in which their magnetic axes are parallel with the Earth's magnetic force lines. In other words, the particles act like compass needles that swing into line with the force field surrounding them. Needless to say, detrital remnant magnetism is of great value in determining the paleomagnetic history of layers of pelagic detrital sediment that have accumulated on the deep ocean floor. Paleomagnetism is studied on a number of scales. Secular variation studies look at small scale changes in the direction and intensity of the Earth's magnetic field. The magnetic north pole is constantly shifting relative to the axis of rotation of the Earth. Magnetism is a vector, and so magnetic field variation is made up of paleo-directional measurements of magnetic declination and magnetic inclination and paleo-intensity measurements. The past directions of the Earth's magnetic field is best preserved in the iron-bearing minerals such as magnetite, and thus the study of paleomagnetism is possible. Paleomagnetic signatures in rocks can be recorded by three different mechanisms. Number 1, thermoremnant magnetization. Earth's magnetic field directions are best preserved in iron titanium oxide minerals, in basalt and other igneous rocks, when the rocks cool through the Curie temperatures of those minerals. The Curie temperature of magnetite, a spinel group iron oxide, is about 580 degrees centigrade, whereas most basalt and gabbro are completely crystallized at temperatures above 900 degrees centigrade. Hence, the mineral grains are not rotated physically to align with the Earth's field, but rather they may record the orientation of that field. The record so preserved is called a thermoremnant magnetization, or TRM. Because complex oxidation reactions may occur as igneous rocks cool after crystallization, the orientations of the Earth's magnetic field are not always accurately recorded, nor is the record necessarily maintained. Nonetheless, the record has been preserved well enough in basalts of the ocean's crust to have been critical in the development of theories of sea flow spreading related to plate tectonics. TRM can also be recorded in pottery kilns, hearths, and burned adobe buildings. The discipline based on the study of thermoremnant magnetism in archaeological materials is called archaeomagnetic dating. Next one, detrital remnant magnetization. Sediments consisting of magnetic grains may align with the magnetic field during or soon after deposition. This is known as detrital remnant magnetization, or in short form DRM. If the magnetization is acquired as the grains are deposited, the result is a depositional detrital remnant magnetization, and it is designated as DDRM. If it is acquired soon after deposition, it is a post-depositional detrital remnant magnetization, and this is designated as PDRM. Next is the chemical remnant magnetization. In this type, magnetic grains grow during chemical reactions and record the direction of the magnetic field at the time of their formation. The field is said to be recorded by chemical remnant magnetization, or in short form it is called as CRM. A common form of chemical remnant magnetization is held by the mineral hematite, another iron oxide. Hematite forms through chemical oxidation reactions of other minerals in the rock, including magnetite. Red beds, clastic sedimentary rocks such as sandstones are red because of hematite, that formed during sedimentary diagenesis. The CRM signatures in red beds can be quite useful, and they are common targets in magnetostratigraphy studies. Isothermal remnant magnetization, or it is also called as IRM, is produced when the remnants is acquired at a fixed temperature. It is called isothermal remnant magnetization. Remnants of this sort is not useful for paleomagnetism, but it can be acquired as a result of lightning strikes. Lightning induced remnant magnetization can be distinguished by its high intensity and rapid variation in direction over scales of centimeters. IRM is often induced in drill cores by the magnetic field of the steel core barrel. This contaminant is generally parallel to the barrel, and most of it can be removed by heating up to about 400 degrees centigrade or demagnetizing in a small alternating field. In the laboratory, IRM is induced by applying fields of various strengths and is used for many purposes in rock magnetism. Paleomagnetists, like many geologists, look at the outcrops because layers of rock are exposed. Road cuts and railway cutting are a convenient man-made source of outcrops. There are two main goals of sampling. One, retrieve samples with accurate orientations, and number two, reduce statistical uncertainty. One way to achieve the first goal is to use a rock coring drill that has a pipe tipped with diamond bits. The drill cuts a cylindrical space around some rock. This can be messy. The drill must be cooled with water, and the result is mud spewing out of the hole. Into this space is inserted another pipe with compass and inclinometer attached. These provide the orientations. Before this device is removed, a mark is scratched on the sample. After the sample is broken off, the mark can be augmented for clarity. As early as 1906, Bernard Brenhes, a French physicist, had observed that the magnetic polarity of some samples of lava is exactly the reverse of present conditions. He concluded that the Earth's magnetic poles must have been reversed at the time the lava solidified. You might wish to propose an alternative hypothesis that the rock magnetism itself has undergone a change in polarity, and this possibility has been given careful study along with other possible alternatives. In recent years, there has been general agreement among members of the scientific community that the rock magnetism is a permanent and reliable indicator of the former states of the Earth's magnetic field. In addition to establishing the magnetic data of the lava, it is essential to determine the age of the rock, that is, the date of magma solidification. Such information is available through radiometric methods. Extensive determination of both magnetic data and rock age soon revealed that there have been at least 10 geomagnetic polarity reversals of the Earth's magnetic field in the last 3.5 million years of geologic time. The timescale of geomagnetic polarity reversal was then carried back to about 7 million years ago by the use of potassium-argon dating method applied to lava layers. A particularly valuable find was a succession of the lava layers in Iceland totaling 3,500 meters in thickness. There, 3 additional magnetic polarity epochs were found to extend beyond the Gilbert epoch, and these were simply designated as epochs 5, 6 and 7. Rock magnetism and tectonics. The research studies are based on the magnetic properties characterization of rocks and minerals in order to document the spatial and temporal geomagnetic field changes in the past. The research is focused to the origin and evolution of geomagnetic field in order to develop paleomagnetism applications in fields such as geophysics, geology, archaeology, as well as in mineral resources exploration and prospecting. The next importance is in paleomagnetism and tectonics. The paleomagnetic studies are one of the main tools in plate tectonics and ocean floor spread research. Since the paleomagnetic method allow the measurement of movement of lithospheric plates and determine paleo coordinates referred to as paleomagnetic poles. The interpretation of the ocean magnetic anomalies that jointly with the radiometric dating is the basis of the geomagnetic polarity scale, has allowed the determination of the age of the oceanic crust as well as the velocity and direction of movement of the lithospheric plates. This research line is developed by us mainly in the study of continental plates and its movement in the region of Mexico and Central America. Our research is particularly focused on the tectonic and paleogeographic evolution problems concerned with the Pangaea supercontinent ensemble, origin and evolution of Gulf of Mexico and Caribbean region, the evolution of California, Gulf and Baja California Peninsula, as well as other main geologic features such as East Sierra Madre, West Sierra Madre and volcanic Trans-Mexican Belt. In the past years, paleomagnetic studies has been concentrated in research of the characteristics and processes involved in orogenic belts formation. Studies in deformed regions, in active margins and inside the continents have documented the occurrence of block rotations along their vertical axis. Studies on accretion terrain phenomena along continental margins and transform and transcurrent faring processes have led to the development of tectonostratigraphic terrain concept. Next is the magnetic properties of rocks and minerals. Some iron minerals such as lodestone, Ti4 titanomagnetites, hematite, pyrrhotite and goethite are able to preserve a remnant magnetization which constitutes the basis of the paleomagnetic record in rocks. The origin of remnant magnetization may be due to different processes such as temperature changes involved in magma cooling, that is plutonism and volcanism, or in metamorphic processes. This research line is focused to the study of the different remnant magnetization acquisition process and characteristics of magnetization and magnetic minerals. The studies also have a high potential for several applications such as modeling and interpretation of magnetic anomalies, mineral ore and petroleum field prospecting, as well as for finding other secondary mineral associations. The last one is geomagnetic field secular variation and paleo intensity. This research line is about the study of the geomagnetic fields, spatial and temporal features and their intermediate period changes that are in the paleo secular variations and in the documentation of the paleo intensity changes of the geomagnetic field. The study of the paleo secular variations include studies of the historic period starting from observatory data and recent geologic periods, based on the records on volcanic rocks, lacustrine sediments and archaeological materials. Paleomagnetists led the revival of the continental drift hypothesis and its transformation into plate tectonics. Apparent polar wander paths provided the first clear geophysical evidence for continental drift, while marine magnetic anomalies did the same for seafloor spreading. Paleomagnetism continues to extend the history of plate tectonics back in time and are applied to the movement of continental fragments or terrains. Paleomagnetism relied heavily on new developments in rock magnetism, which in turn has provided the foundation for new applications of magnetism. These include biomagnetism, magnetic fabrics used as strain indicators in rocks and soils, and environmental magnetism. Geophysicists who specialize in paleomagnetism are called paleomagnetists.